just got back from Europe. The most incredible 2.5 weeks. Iceland was amazing. And now that I'm home, it is time to debrief. So I have a ton of notes, and we are going to talk about Iceland, the Golden Circle and Ring Road with EF Ultimate Break. So this is a new trip for this year. I actually booked it 2 years ago, and it finally came and went, which is crazy. I feel like I've been looking forward to this for so long. So this was only the third run of this trip, and overall I think it went really smooth. Like, it's a pretty good trip. There's just like a few little flaws, but overall a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved Iceland. So I think the best parts are like the beginning, which is when we do like the south coast, the Golden Circle. We arrive in Reykjavik, which is always exciting. Hi, Leia. Hey, kitty. Say hi. Okay. So the middle part is what needs like a little tightening. It just like really goes downhill, and the energy was pretty low for like a day and a half because we weren't doing much. But it definitely picked up at the end. Like, I loved Akureyri. I love the Blue Lagoon. The lava caves like close to Reykjavik were super cool. So overall, super good trip, and it flowed really nicely. So we did the whole ring road, which started in Reykjavik. If you picture Iceland as a circle, starts in Reykjavik here. We did the Golden Circle, the south coast, and that was days 1 through 5, which were my absolute favorite. Days 1 through 4 follows the exact same itinerary as the other Iceland trips that EF offers, which is the summer escape and winter escape. Some of my absolute favorite parts of the trip. So if you can only like take off limited time, or if it's just because it's way cheaper to do those trips, I would still do them. It was absolutely incredible. And then we continued along the south coast. We did the glaciers in the southeast, which was really cool. The driving along the east was what got like a little boring on days 6 and 7, but then when we made it to Akureyri the night of day 7, it got a lot better. And then we finished the loop with like some lava caves, our final waterfalls, and made it back to Reykjavik. So I think if they could just tighten like those days 6 and 7 and make it like a little less driving, it would be a lot better. We spent way too much time in the town with the egg sculptures, but I absolutely loved Akureyri. The whale watching was I kind of wish I didn't do it, but at the same time, if everyone went except for me and they all came back and were like, oh my gosh, we saw so many whales or something, I would have been like missing out, or I would have been sad that I missed out. So I'm glad I went just for the sake of like, we saw like a little bit. And then day 9 was a lot of driving again, but we did like the lava cave. We had a really good dinner at the hotel that night. And then I loved the Blue Lagoon, which was the other optional on day 10. And then we had a very good farewell dinner, which was seafood. Love, love, love that. We stayed in 6 different hotels, 7 if you count the fact that we went back to the one in Reykjavik for a second time at the very end of the trip. They were all fine, super like standard hotels. Like, the breakfasts were pretty basic but good. So nothing specific to say there. It was a lot of moving around. We had to pack up our stuff and like go down to the bus almost every morning, which was a lot, but to see all the stuff we did, I think it was worth it. And then the food. So there's a good amount of included meals on this trip, which is really nice because Iceland is so expensive. And it was a good variety of like meat, fish. There were some good vegetarian options if you don't eat meat, fish, whatever. And like I said, at the seafood dinner, we went to Mar on the last night. It was so good. 10 out of 10 would recommend if you're in Reykjavik. But the food in Iceland itself, it does get a little repetitive. It's like a lot of the same stuff. So after 10 days, I was real sick of it. It's like lamb, burgers, fish and chips, pizza. And when it's so expensive, it like gets hard to keep spending money on the same thing over and over. So just keep that in mind, that the food there does get old. But vegans and vegetarians and people with like allergies, dairy allergies, or we had like a shellfish allergy, they all had no problem eating. So it is good for vegetarians. So now let's talk spending. So I mentioned these in my past videos, but there were 2 optional excursions on this trip. One was whale watching on day 8. Again, I didn't really like it, but I'm glad I went just to experience it, I guess. I paid $100 for it, but because EF increases their prices, now they are retailing it at $120. And the Blue Lagoon was, when I booked, $150. Now it's at $230, which is kind of crazy. It's a lot more than what you could pay if you go on your own, but it's kind of nice because they take you there, you get the transportation and stuff, and you get to go with like everyone else in the group. So it is fun just to do the Blue Lagoon through EF if you're not like super tight for money. If you want to see what I spent on the whole trip, like the flights, the whole cost of the tour, any discounts I got with EF when you like book during sales and stuff, go to the description and there's a link to my blog post with my full review, which includes like all the spending and stuff, and you can find it there, including a lot more information about the trip. If you just want like a full breakdown, just read it instead of watching all the videos. So continuing on with spending, like I said, there was a lot of included stuff, and obviously we're not paying for like hotels and stuff over there, and like almost all the ticket costs and stuff are included. But let me just break down how much I spent for you, because Iceland Iceland is so expensive. And just to preface this, I did this trip on like extreme budget mode. I was only buying what I had to buy. I barely spent any money on like souvenirs. I got a few alcoholic drinks, but you can totally skip those to save to money. But if you're a big shopper, a big spender, I did skip a few meals just in terms of like I wasn't super hungry and I didn't need to spend $50 on a meal, so I just had some snacks. So if you're not skipping meals, bring a lot more than what I'm about to tell you. I have this in a few different categories and then I'll tell you my full total spending. On food and non-alcoholic drinks, I spent 23,836 krona, which is like the local currency. And if you put that into US dollars, it is 197 US dollars on food and non-alcoholic drinks. So just to break down what I spent, I didn't buy that much food for $200. So I got a hot dog, 2 orders of fries, 3 sodas, an order and a half of fish and chips because I shared with somebody one day, 2 small supermarket stops, an order of cauliflower wings, an order of chicken nuggets, a bowl of soup, 2 hot chocolates, and 1 Kit Kat. So not a lot of food, and a lot of that is like snacks or stuff like soup or like hot chocolate or soda, and that cost me almost $200 US. So just to give you an idea of how expensive it is, if you're buying stuff like lamb or steak or something, it is going to be a lot more than that. So then on beer, I bought 2 beers and that cost me 2,500 krona or $20 US, so about $10 a beer there. And one of those was like a happy hour deal. So, and then like I said, almost everything you do is included, but we had some extra time one day, so we stopped at a crater, which was really cool, and entrance to that was 600 krona or $5 US. And then on souvenirs, I didn't buy too much, but I had to buy something because I always buy like myself a magnet. So I bought 1 sticker, 2 magnets, and 2 chocolate bars, and that cost me 3,748 krona or $31 US. Yes, I spent $31 US on 1 sticker, 2 magnets, and 2 chocolate bars. So if you're doing more souvenir shopping, bring a lot of money. And then finally on tips, like for my tour director and the bus driver, I spent $110 US. So total spending for food, beer, a crater entrance, and souvenirs was just over 30,000 krona or $253 US. If you add in the tips to that, I spent $363. For 11 days in Iceland, that's not bad. Like I said, I went extreme budget mode. I brought a bunch of snacks and stuff that I was eating throughout the trip. I never bought like water or anything because you can fill up from the tap. It's really good glacier water there. So make sure you pack a water bottle. So it was a lot less than I thought I spent, if we're being honest. But honestly, if you're not going to go extreme budget mode, I would bring or plan on spending at least like $700 on this trip. So double what I spent. Make sure you have money to tip your bus driver and tour director at the end. Don't skip meals if you don't want to. You shouldn't do that. It's a very active trip. You're doing a lot of walking, a lot of like hiking. So make sure you're just like nourished and stuff. And if you can bring a water bottle, that helps a lot. So overall, I really liked this trip. 10 days in Iceland. We saw so much as we went along the ring road. Absolutely loved it. I hope that they can almost just like clean up the little part in the middle. Like on day 6, it was just a lot of nothing. And I felt like it was like a waste since we're there for such a short time. And it's such an expensive trip. Like I wish we could do a little more, even if they just added like a hike or something instead of 3 hours in this small town where like almost everything was closed. And my other issue, I absolutely loved my tour director. He was so nice. Loved him. He loved seeing Iceland with us. Like he was so excited every day about what we got to do and it was so cool. But he wasn't from Iceland and I wish we had an Icelandic tour director. It would have helped so much. I feel like we would have just like learned so much more. And I know that like EF uses tour directors from all over Europe and they do different trips and stuff, whatever. But it was my 8th trip and my first trip not having a tour director from that country, and it was definitely noticeable. I think it just would have been a lot better if they could have gotten a local to take us around Iceland for 10 days, especially on a tour this long. I could see it being fine on like the shorter like 4-day tour, but for 10 days it would have been super nice if we could like have a local to like ask questions and like learn about their life growing up in Iceland and stuff like that. So those were my 2 negatives on the trip. But overall, super great. Super smooth for the 3rd run. I loved it. Whether you're doing this trip, you're doing the summer escape, you're doing the winter escape, you decide to go on your own, Iceland is an amazing country. And as I just proved in my budget spending, you don't have to spend a lot. Like obviously the tour costs a lot and the accommodation and like the flights and stuff, but I've been paying for those for like 2 years, like over time. So that was fine. And your spending doesn't have to be crazy once you get there, especially if you go with EF because they include so much and like all your breakfasts are included, so you can eat a good breakfast every day, pack snacks and stuff. But overall, great trip. One more thing, if you're going, make sure you pack waterproof clothes, waterproof pants, waterproof jacket, waterproof shoes. We got very wet some days, and it was super cold, like with the wind, and when you're by those waterfalls and the wind is blowing the water, you get super wet. So make sure you pack waterproof clothes. Make sure you pack a reusable water bottle so you can drink their super good glacier water that they have there on tap. And yeah, that's all I have. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them. Overall, I definitely recommend this trip if you want to learn more. Make sure you go watch my past couple of videos on this trip so you could see what we actually did instead of just me talking. And I also have a link to my blog post where I put more information in my full review of the trip as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. So I actually did Iceland back to back with Oktoberfest, which as you can see by the smile on my face, was absolutely incredible. So you will see that in my next 2 videos. So make sure you come back for that. Please subscribe so you don't miss anything. Give this video a like and comment with any questions, concerns, whatever you want to talk about. And yeah, I will see you next week for some Oktoberfest.